When pressure hits, the first thing that goes is perspective. Your pulse quickens, your thoughts scatter, and you start reacting from instinct rather than intention. It's the body's natural response: fight, flight, or freeze. But here's the truth: that rush of emotion, that surge of adrenaline, isn't a sign that you're weak or unprepared. It's biology doing its job. The challenge isn't to fight that response, it's to master it. Because in those few seconds between what happens and how you respond, everything about your outcome is decided. Think about it. The greatest mistakes we make rarely come from lack of knowledge. They come from lack of pause. We speak too soon, act too fast, decide too emotionally. The smartest people in the world aren't the ones who always know what to do. They're the ones who know when not to do anything. They've trained themselves to breathe before they break. Breathing may sound simple, even trivial, but in moments of chaos, it becomes the most powerful tool you have. A single deep breath is a reset button. It slows the body's panic response, lowers cortisol levels, and gives your brain the oxygen it needs to think clearly again. Neuroscience shows that even a 5-second inhale and exhale can shift your mind from reaction to reflection. In that space, you move from emotion to reason, from "I must do something" to "what is the right thing to do." The pause isn't about inaction, it's about intelligent action. It's a reminder that you are not your impulses. That split second where you choose to breathe instead of explode, to listen instead of defend, to wait instead of rush, that's where leadership begins. Pressure doesn't reveal your weakness, it reveals your practice. And if your practice has been chaos, your response will be chaos. But if your practice is calm, your response will be control. This isn't about being detached or emotionless. It's about giving yourself permission to slow down in a world that constantly demands urgency. The calmest person in the room isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and still chooses to stay centered. So the next time life corners you and your instincts scream for immediate action, pause, breathe. Let your emotions settle long enough for wisdom to speak. Because control doesn't start with dominance, it starts with a single conscious breath. When emotions run high, perception narrows. It's like looking through a keyhole, you see only a fraction of the picture, and yet you convince yourself it's the whole story. Under pressure, this is what most of us do. We become trapped in the moment, absorbed in our own feelings, and the situation feels bigger, heavier, and more personal than it actually is. The truth is, it's not the situation that overwhelms us, it's our attachment to it. Detachment is not about coldness or indifference, it's about clarity. It's the art of stepping outside yourself long enough to see things as they are, not as your emotions paint them to be. When you detach, you don't lose empathy, you gain perspective. You stop reacting to how something makes you feel and start responding to what it actually means. This shift is subtle, but it's everything. It's what allows great leaders, negotiators, and thinkers to remain steady when everyone else is losing balance. In psychology, there's a concept called cognitive diffusion, the ability to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them. Imagine standing on a bridge watching cars pass beneath you. Each car is a thought, an emotion, a fear. Most people, when under stress, jump into the traffic and get hit by every car that passes. Detachment is the act of staying on the bridge. You acknowledge what you see, you note it, but you don't let it control where you stand. This kind of perspective requires discipline. It's the ability to say, "I am not my anger. I am not my fear. I am the awareness behind them." From that position, logic returns. You start asking different questions, not "why is this happening to me?" but "what is this teaching me?" and not "who's to blame?" but "what can I learn?" The emotional fog begins to lift, and what felt like chaos starts to take shape as information. When you detach, you reclaim your power. You stop letting the external dictate your internal. You become the observer, calm, curious, and deliberate rather than the reactor. And the more often you practice this, the faster you can access it when it matters most. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, step back. Don't rush to fix the situation, first see it. Because sometimes the clearest vision doesn't come from trying harder, it comes from stepping away just long enough to see the truth that's been there all along. One of the most paralyzing feelings under pressure is the belief that you must control everything. You want every outcome to go your way, every variable to align perfectly, every person to understand your intentions. But life doesn't work that way, and pressure reminds you of it. The harder you try to control everything, the faster things seem to spin out of your grasp. It's not because you're incapable, it's because control, in its total sense, is an illusion. What truly matters is not controlling everything, but mastering what's within your reach, your mindset, your effort, your response. That's where real power lies. The difference between people who crumble under stress and those who rise through it is this. One wastes energy fighting what they can't change, while the other invests energy in what they can influence. When you focus on what's within your control, chaos outside loses its grip. This is not just philosophy, it's psychology. When your brain perceives something as uncontrollable, it triggers anxiety and helplessness. But when it identifies something within your control, it restores a sense of agency, and with that, calmness. You shift from being a victim of circumstance to being an architect of response. It's a small mental shift that changes everything. In high-stress environments, boardrooms, battlefields, hospitals, those who perform best aren't the ones who predict every outcome. They're the ones who adapt within every outcome. They understand that control is a circle, not a net. The circle is small, your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, but it's powerful. The net is wide, other people's opinions, external events, timing, and it's unpredictable. Trying to control the net drains you. Focusing on the circle strengthens you. When you center yourself around what you can control, you conserve energy for what actually matters. You respond with intention instead of panic. You become stable, not because life is stable, but because you are. And the moment people sense that, they begin to trust you not because you have all the answers, but because you're not being controlled by the chaos around you. So when pressure comes, don't ask, how do I control this? Ask, what part of this belongs to me? The moment you make that distinction, you move from being overwhelmed to being effective. And that's the essence of calm under pressure, not the absence of chaos, but the discipline to lead yourself within it. Emotions are often misunderstood. We're taught to suppress them, to stay strong, to keep our feelings out of the way so we can think clearly. But that approach doesn't lead to control, it leads to disconnection. You cannot lead yourself or others if you're cut off from what's happening inside you. The goal is not to silence your emotions, but to understand them, because emotions are not random, they're data. Every feeling carries a message. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Fear warns you that something valuable is at risk. Anxiety signals uncertainty about what's ahead. The question is, are you listening or are you reacting? When you treat emotions as drama, they take control. They hijack your judgment, distort your reasoning, and make small problems look like permanent failures. But when you treat emotions as data, they inform you without ruling you. You begin to notice patterns, what triggers you, what motivates you, what unsettles you. And in that awareness, you find clarity. There's a reason why the most emotionally intelligent people tend to stay calm in chaos. They don't deny their emotions, they decode them. They take a moment to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? That single question transforms an emotional reaction into an intentional response. It's a shift from why is this happening to me, to what is this revealing about me? And that question is powerful because it turns emotion into information and information into growth. In leadership, business, or relationships, the ability to process emotions constructively is what separates composure from collapse. When you learn to read your emotions, you also learn to read others. You start seeing beyond behavior and into motive. You start hearing what people mean, not just what they say. That's how empathy becomes intelligence, not sentimentality. Understanding your emotions doesn't make you less rational, it makes you more human, and being human is not a liability, it's an advantage. Because when you can feel deeply and still think clearly, you become both grounded and adaptable. That's the balance that allows you to act from strength rather than from fear. So the next time you feel anger, anxiety, or doubt rising inside you, don't push it away. Pause, listen. There's wisdom in that discomfort, and it's speaking directly to you. Mastery doesn't come from ignoring your emotions, it comes from learning to understand their language. Calm is not something you stumble upon when life gets difficult. It's something you build long before the storm arrives. Most people wait until they're under pressure to learn how to stay composed, but by then, it's too late. You don't learn to swim while you're drowning. You learn to swim when the water is calm. The same principle applies to your emotions. If you want to think clearly under stress, you must rehearse calm when things are peaceful. The greatest performers in any field, athletes, surgeons, soldiers, leaders, don't rely on luck when things get hard. They rely on preparation. They simulate pressure before they face it. They practice patience when they don't need it, so that when they do, it's second nature. Calm is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens through repetition. When you deliberately slow your reactions, control your tone, or breathe through a minor irritation, you're training your mind for bigger challenges. The discipline of calm doesn't start in crisis. It starts in the everyday moments you often overlook. What most people call composure is really familiarity. They've been there before, maybe not in the exact situation, but in the same emotional terrain. They've rehearsed uncertainty, frustration, and fear enough times that when it returns, it doesn't catch them off guard. The mind recognizes the feeling, the body remembers the response, and together they create space for clarity to emerge. That's why training calm is not about pretending nothing affects you. It's about building trust with yourself. It's saying, no matter what happens, I can handle it. This idea might sound simple, but it's profoundly powerful. Because when you practice calm, you're not denying emotion, you're directing it. You're teaching your nervous system that pressure is not danger, it's opportunity. You stop seeing stress as a threat to avoid and start seeing it as a skill to manage. That shift changes the way you lead, the way you work, and the way you live. The truth is, composure is not a gift, it's a discipline. It's a daily commitment to stay centered even when no one's watching, so that when everyone is, you're ready. So practice calm today, in conversation, in traffic, in disappointment, because those are your training grounds. The storm will come, but when it does, your preparation will meet it with stillness. And that stillness, that quiet strength, is where true control begins. Pressure is often viewed as a burden, something to survive, something to get through. But what if we redefined it? What if, instead of seeing pressure as a threat, we started to see it as a privilege? Because the truth is, pressure only shows up in the presence of responsibility. It only visits people who are trusted with something that matters. You don't feel pressure when nothing's at stake. You feel it when something meaningful is on the line. Your integrity, your work, your future. That's not punishment, that's purpose knocking. The people who thrive under pressure don't necessarily have less stress. They've simply learned to interpret it differently. They've reframed pressure from a signal of danger to a sign of opportunity. They understand that discomfort is not an obstacle to performance, it's part of it. Growth and pressure are inseparable. One cannot exist without the other. So when you feel the weight of expectation, don't ask, why me? Ask, why not me? Because pressure doesn't choose the weak, it finds the ones capable of rising. There's a concept in physics called stress testing. Engineers apply force to a structure not to break it, but to understand its strength. Pressure does the same thing to us. It reveals where we're strong, where we're fragile, and where we need to grow. Most people run from that revelation because it's uncomfortable. But those who lean into it, those who treat pressure as feedback rather than failure, become unshakable. Philosophically, pressure reminds us of our agency. It forces us to decide who we're going to be when comfort is no longer available. Will we be the person who folds or the one who focuses? The moment you accept pressure as part of your journey, it loses its ability to intimidate you. You stop fearing it and start using it. You start to realize that pressure doesn't crush diamonds, it creates them. So the next time you feel the tension of responsibility, the weight of expectation, or the fear of not being enough, remember this: pressure is proof that you're in the game. It's the universe's way of saying, you're trusted with something significant. Embrace that weight. Let it refine you, not define you. Because the ones who grow through pressure don't ask for less of it. They learn to carry it with grace. And that's where real strength and real leadership begins.